Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Leaders Lab. So glad you've joined us here again on a Tuesday night. Hope you've all had a great day at work, wherever you find yourself. Hope you're having great dinner. Some of you are sitting around dinner tables watching this, comfy on a couch in your pajamas. As the night is getting darker quickly. Again, just hope you're doing well. And I'm excited. Thanks for joining us. I see a couple of people again. I love to interact. I got my phone out here to see who's jumped in the chat. Big Was. Is that Warren? I can't. It is. Wazza! Hey! Good to see you. Good to have you on here, my friend. I'm glad you're up here. I miss you, man. Hope you and the fam are doing good. Call me sometime. Text me. Do something. Send a pigeon. Write a letter. Do anything. Good to have you, Was. I see Kristen's on there. Anyone else on there, say hi. Let us know you're here. These obviously jump on. You can watch later if you wanted to, but we want to do these lives to make sure that we can give room for questions, interaction. I love talking to people who are on here. And you'll know this about me if you know me well. I love all things leadership. I love being able to create space for conversations around us, growing together as leaders. This is not a space, if you're looking for an expert, you've got the wrong place. If you're looking for your 10 steps, 10 this, that, wrong place. Really, the heart of this was to create a space really to just divulge into conversations around life and leadership and how to grow in every arena of leadership and life together. And share some thoughts around things that I'm learning, things that I'm wrestling with, things that I'm working with the Lord on, things that I'm thinking about when it comes to our church. Again, just a reminder, this was really, the genesis of this was really a space for me to get talking to the leaders of our church, for them to dissect information that are things that I'm thinking through and help our church grow in their own leadership capacity, not just in how they lead in our church, but lead in their own spaces of life, whether that's in family, whether it's in business, whether that's in the coaching field, whether that's in corporate, wherever you find yourself. There are so many spaces that we all are called to lead in. And so it's just a space where we can gather together and just talk all things life and leadership. Okay, some people are joining me in the chat. Hey, Joe, good to have you back. Hello, Rosie, good to see you as well. So let's get into it. Today, I want to talk about talk around a thought titled the Black Swan, and the Black Swan, the Blindside, and the 10th Man. I know it's a pretty crazy title. The Black Swan, the Blindside, and the 10th Man. It's funny, I love putting together titles that people are going, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, that title is really, I'm going to talk about anti-fragile leadership today. Anti-fragile leadership. How to cultivate and to be kind of anti-fragile leader and to live an anti-fragile life. That whole thought, that whole concept came from a quote I remember hearing from Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson said this. He said, it's not the hardest punch that always knocks you out. It's the one that you don't see coming. And I want to, again, it's just that thought. I was thinking about that this week and just thought that's actually what I want to talk about. It's not the hardest punch that always knocks you out. It's the one that you don't see coming. And this is true in life and in leadership. Here's what I've learned. It's rarely the visible threats that derail us. Here's what I've learned. It's rarely the visible threats that derail us. It's often the ones we never thought to prepare for. It's the ones we never saw coming. And what I'm learning is this, is that the goal of a wise leader isn't to predict every punch that comes. You can't. The truth is, you cannot predict every punch, every setback, every trial that might come at you. But the goal of a wise leader is to build the kind of soul, the kind of circle, and the kind of systems in and around your life that can't be knocked out when one of those punches lands. And here's the reality, it will land. And, I say this, woe to any person, woe to any leader, woe to any individual who believes and who says something like this, that will never happen to me. Those are the famous last words before something catastrophic happens that no one ever imagined would happen to them and it takes them out. May we never be caught saying these words, both in life and in leadership. That will never be me. That will never happen to me. That person, my spouse would never do that to me. My children would never do that would never happen to us. Because if you've lived any amount of life long enough, you'll quickly realize that in life, as is true in boxing, there will always be the punch you don't see coming. And the whole concept of this anti-fragility in leadership that I want to teach today is learning how to not be knocked out by the punch you don't see coming. And so what do I mean by anti-fragility in life and in leadership? Some systems are fragile. Think of this, they break under stress. So there are fragile leadership as there are fragile systems. These are the ones that break under stress, like glass. Some are robust. There are robust leaders as there are robust systems. What does that mean? These are the ones that resist stress but don't improve. Think about steel. Steel can resist almost everything, but it doesn't improve under those conditions. And here's what I want to talk about today. The best systems, like the best leaders, are anti-fragile leaders and systems. Why is that? Because these are the kinds of systems that grow stronger through stress, they grow stronger through volatility, and they grow stronger through surprise, life's unanticipated events. I think of gold when I think of that. I think of our muscles. You know, our muscles are designed to be anti-fragile. In fact, your muscles grow the biggest and strongest when you tear them, when you put them under stress, and they experience high volatility. And so this is what I want to talk about. Being like gold, being like muscles or our immune system. That when life throws those punches you don't see coming, and you experience volatility in life, that you don't just endure it like steel, you don't crumble under it like glass, but you grow through it and you grow stronger like all the other things I've mentioned. Anti-fragile leadership is about building systems that benefit from life's unpredictability. Oh, I want to be that kind of person. I want to be the kind of leader. I want to lead the kind of church. I want to build the kind of team that can benefit from life's unpredictability. Because if there's one thing that is constant in life, it's change, along with taxes and death. That's a saying. Anyway, I'll move on. So 3 things that I want us to consider today. 3 ideas, 3 things to consider that can help us build anti-fragility in our lives and leadership. The very first one, which is part of the title, is this. It's the black swan. It's building into you this idea of the black swan model, which is this: to expect the unexpected. Expect the unexpected. To be able to become an anti-fragile leader, to live an anti-fragile life, you have to build into yourself this knowledge that the unexpected is coming and I will expect it. Expecting the unexpected. So why the black swan? The term black swan was an ancient metaphor that was used to describe the impossible. I just recently learned this. It was a phrase that was used to describe the impossible. Why? Because for centuries, Europeans had never seen anything other than white swans. All they had ever seen was white swans. In fact, I had Lonnie here tonight, and he's like, I don't think I've ever seen a black swan. And so philosophers would say things like this, that you'll see a black swan when you see pigs fly. Same concept. Why? What they were meaning was this: you'll never see it. It's an impossibility of a scenario. But in 1967, a Dutch explorer named Willem de Vlaming, he arrived in Western Australia and saw for the first time real black swans. And in that moment, the impossible just became real. And after that discovery, it shattered what had been a centuries-old assumption that was built on observation, that just because something has never been seen, it doesn't mean it's impossible. That discovery that day instantly transformed the phrase black swan from a metaphor of impossibility to one that disproves our assumptions about the world. It was proof, listen to me here, that no amount of past observation can ever fully prove what's possible. In fact, the author of the book called Black Swan, which he got out of this idea of the breaking of the idea that things were impossible, the impossible can become real, is a guy named Nassim Taleb. And Taleb calls most of human confidence a narrative fallacy. A narrative fallacy. Why? He explains this as we build stories to explain the past, believing that the past is the greatest predictor of future events. But he explains this, that those stories are incomplete. Those stories are fragile. Why? Because they are blind to the outliers. They are blind to events that we've never seen before. And so I wrote this down. We far too often overestimate what we know, and we underestimate what we don't know. I'm going to say it again. one of the biggest mistakes we can make in life and in leadership is to overestimate what we know and underestimate what we don't. In fact, here's a key thing. Here's a key thought I want us to zone in on here. When you think about the world, especially complex systems like finance or history or technology or anthropology or our society, the world we live in operates more like a power law. And here, Taleb explains this, meaning this, that it is a few rare events, the outliers, that have accounted for the most impact in our world. Let me put it this way. It's not the average, normal, predictable events that define history. It's the anomalies. We don't open up our history books and see average, normal events. They don't shape history. We don't look at financial articles. We don't listen to Bloomberg. We don't read financial institutions or unpack financial studies, economics, and read the economic novels and so forth, and unpack normal average events. Most of our world's thinking, our history, our financial markets today are shaped by those catastrophic, what they call black swan events, the outlier events that no one saw coming. Here's another one I put when I kind of bring it to you personally here today. It's not the risk you calculate. I want to actually put this up there. Let me see if I can find it here. Yep, I'm going to say it. I'm trying to run some things here. I want to show you some things here. It's not the risk you calculate. What's up?
Next one.
Oh, am I on the wrong slide? Let me see and find it for you. There it is. It's not the risk you calculate that ruins you. It's the one you never thought to calculate. That's really the concept of the black swan analogy. It's understanding that it's never the risk you calculate that ruins you. Why? Because you've planned for it. You've put provisions in place for it. You've calculated it. You've made contingency plans for it. It's not the ones you calculate that ruin you. It's the ones you never thought to calculate. In fact, here's another thought around that same concept. It's never what you expect, but what you ignore that ruins you. What are we ignoring in our lives, in our preparation, in our planning, in our leadership? Because it's the things that you ignore, not the things that you expect, that end up ruining us. So here's my question for us. What are you assuming will always stay the same? What have you made assumptions about in our lives? We can often do this, and I tell you, it's the greatest trap in leadership. It's the greatest trap in life when we make assumptions about what might happen. What are you assuming will stay the same? Because as I mentioned before, one of the many constants in life is change. Things are bound to change. Things never stay the same. The cause of the financial crash in 2008 was because people thought, we've never had a housing bubble. We've never had this happen. We assumed so many things would stay the same. And I'm asking you today, what in your life are you assuming will stay the same? Because the thing you're assuming will stay the same, the thing that you build on with no contingency, the thing that you don't plan for, the scenario you don't anticipate, is the very scenario that will ruin you. And here's another question. Where have you mistaken predictability for security? Where have you mistaken predictability for security? Because again, life is unpredictable. Change is always on the horizon. And it's the things that we don't see coming, the things that we don't plan for, that take us out. And so here's the reality. The danger isn't volatility. It's fragility. Fragile leaders, like fragile systems, will always fall apart when plans fail. Anti-fragile leaders, instead, they bend, they rebuild, and they grow. The problem and the danger is not that life and leadership and teams and families and spouses and children's and the world we live in is volatile. That's just part of life. The problem then and the danger is that we are too fragile on the inside to know how to survive when life throws you a punch you don't see coming. And so here's what the Black Swan philosophy teaches us. Here's what the Black Swan model teaches me. That we must have humility in leadership and preparedness. Humility and preparedness. Now, I want to stop here and say this. The call for this message is not paranoia, not constantly looking for what's around the corner that could get me. No, the call here is preparedness. Humility and preparedness. What do I mean by humility? It's the knowledge, it's understanding that my knowledge that I have, my lived experiences, and the resources I have at my disposal are not enough to prepare me for what's coming. Too many people rely on their lived experiences or their knowledge that they have. And that's the problem with the generation we live in right now. We are in one of the richest information ages ever. We have more knowledge and information at our disposal than we've ever had before. But be careful that knowledge, because what does the Bible teach us? Knowledge puffs up. Don't fall into the trap to think that because we know more, we have access to more information, or we've lived a long life, that we have a lot of experiences, that we are prepared for everything that's coming. We must live in a posture of humility as leaders. To say this, I must accept that there is more I don't know than I do. When we can get into that posture as leaders and in how we live our lives, we are prepared for the black swan events. Why? Because we approach everything we do with a measure of humility. To say, I'm keenly aware that though I've grown a great deal, that though I've lived an expansive life, that though I have more wisdom than I had 10 years ago, though I have more resources at my disposal, though I've whatever, put it next to this, I still recognize that I must live with a measure of humility to understand that there is more I don't know than I do. It's asking myself the question, what would knock me out right now if it happened tomorrow? Too many leaders don't ask that question. Because when we don't ask that question, which is a question that's born out of humility, which is saying, I need to recheck again my vulnerabilities because they exist. I must look again at my weaknesses because they exist. I must check again at the foundation because I know that there's going to be things in that aren't right. We must ask those critical questions. What would ruin me if it happened tomorrow? It's a question that says, I am human, I am fallible, and I don't have the capacity or the knowledge or the experience or the wisdom to foresee every event that might happen to me. That's the humility. But here's the bigger part, it's preparedness. It's preparedness. In fact, when you look at boxers like Mike Tyson, the best fighters don't just train for power. They don't just train considering what they can do, considering only their strengths. The best fighters, they plan and they prepare for when the plan breaks down. They prepare for when the plan breaks down. How prepared are you for the plans you have for your life to break down? How prepared are you for the plans you've prepared, the things that you've put together to not work out the way you anticipated? Because I have found this even after pastoring now for well over a decade, that it's often the things that you've planned for that don't go to plan, or the things that you expected that didn't come to pass, that can take you out. The best fighters and the best leaders don't just make plans around our strengths and our vision, but they preparedness for when the plan breaks down. When you get tagged, when you get punched in the mouth. What does Mike Tyson say? Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Are you prepared for the knockout punch? The one that you weren't braced for. And here's, I want to bring it practical. You can prepare for the busy season. You can prepare for the budget gap. You can prepare for whatever else you can fit in there. But what about the betrayal you don't anticipate? What about the catastrophic loss that can blindside you? What about the failure that you didn't plan for? And here's what people don't consider. And again, I've seen this trip up some great leaders. What about the success that inflated your pride? Because we can make a lot of provisions for things going wrong. But I've found what also can catch people out is they're not prepared for when success happens. How do you handle success? How do you handle fame? How do you handle growth? How do you handle exponential things moving forward for you? How do you handle the inflation of pride that can put up in you because that success is brought? True leaders understand that to prepare for black swan events, the outlier events that have the most impact on our lives, the seismic shift events, I must come with humility and preparedness. But I think of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, it says this, that let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. It is a reminder that even though you're standing now, don't presume to be standing again tomorrow. What have you presumed on because it's been a constant up until this point? Let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. I also think of 1 Peter 5, verse 6 to 8. That it says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. Watch this. Be sober-minded. Be watchful. That speaks of preparedness. Because your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. So here's some things that the Black Swan model teaches me. It teaches me to build, number one, margin. The Black Swan model teaches me to build margin into my life. Why is margin important? Margin is your financial, spiritual, physical, and emotional buffer for the unexpected events of life. Do you have margin in your life? Have you built a buffer? Why? Because if you don't have that buffer, you have no time to respond, you have no time to plan, you have no time to change, you have no time to bend, you have no time to maneuver, you have no time to, again, be malleable and to roll with the punches and to remain standing. It's when you're running at 100% capacity in your finances, in your spiritual life, in your physical life, in your emotional life, that when that one thing happens, it's where the phrase, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's not because straw was heavy, but that camel was at full capacity, and all it takes is one more thing you didn't plan for. One event you didn't see coming. One event you never thought would happen to you, to fall upon your finances, to fall upon your spiritual life, to fall upon you emotionally, to fall upon you physically, to break you. And so my question to you is, where are you running at 100% capacity? Where are you currently running at 100% capacity? Make the change. Where are you currently redlining? We have to build margin in our lives. Because again, when you think about the straw that broke a camel's back analogy, it doesn't often take, exactly what Mike Tyson said, it's not the hardest punch that knocks you out. It's the one you don't see coming. So there could be a very small thing that might come at you tomorrow, or come at you next year, or come at you in 5 years, that had you had margin in your life, had you built in margin into your budget, had you built in margin emotionally, that you're not high-strung and running at a high capacity, you might have had the capacity to overcome that blow. But when you're running at 100% and you have no margin, you have no buffer, that small thing can knock you out. So the Black Swan model teaches me to build in margin. The second thing the Black Swan model teaches me is to, again, build community around my life. Why? Because community is the support system that disperses the weight and burdens of life. When I wrote that down, I thought through, we did a teaching a couple months or weeks ago at our builders gathering about foundation. One of the key things when you build a foundation before you build a house is the footings. And what is the footings and the foundation? The footings often go beyond what the base of the structure will be. They stretch wider than the actual thing you're building. And what the footings do, they distribute the weight. And when I read that, I thought to myself, that is the perfect picture of why we need community. No man is an island. We need community. Why? Because community is the footing in our life. It is what helps us distribute the weight of life. It helps us distribute the burdens of life across a wider surface. Because as you put all the weight of a house, all the weight of your calling, all the weight of your gifting, all the weight of your future into one singular point, the whole foundation will crumble and the whole thing falls apart. We need community in our lives because the community disperses the weight. So, what I thought about is that phrase, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Some of you have heard that phrase. And oftentimes, for a long time, I thought that phrase was more about your friends become a picture of what your life will look like. You will look like your company, which is true. What the Bible teaches us, bad company corrupts good character. So yes, on one hand, it is true that who you surround yourself with is a great picture of who you will become. But as I thought about that concept around community and the Black Swan model, I also began to realize, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. It also shows me longevity. If I see a person who has a very small circle, who doesn't have strong community around them, who believes that they can do this by myself, started from the bottom, now I'm here. I did this all by myself. If you are the kind of person who thinks you can do this life by yourself, who thinks you can fulfill the call of God on your life by yourself, I don't need a team, I don't need friends, I don't need community, I don't need the church, it's just me and God and my Bible, can I tell you it's foolish? You show me your friends, or the lack thereof, and I can tell you your future is not going to be one marked by longevity. You will not finish the race. You will not complete the task at hand. You will not accomplish all that God has for you. Why? Because God has uniquely designed us to flourish in community. I'm convinced of this, and I can see it through Scripture in so many parts, that much of what God has called us to accomplish, He has tethered to the people around you. We need other people. There are things in my life that unlock things in Lonnie's life. There are things in Kristen's life that unlock things in me. There are things in Marissa's life that unlock things for me as a leader. We need each other. We need community because there are things and the people that God has got around us that help us unlock the very best of us. And at the very lowest, the lowest hanging fruit is that those people become the support system that hold me up when I don't have the energy to keep going. That hold me up when that punch I didn't see coming staggers me and I'm about to fall over, and they hold me up. We need community. The Black Swan model teaches me that if I want to be an anti-fragile leader, I need to build margin in my life, and I've got to build community into my life. Number 3, the Black Swan model teaches me that prayer is crucial. Prayer, I have to build prayer into my life. Prayer is of paramount importance. I often say this to our church. You've heard me say this over and over again. Your prayer life is a direct reflection of your dependency on God. It speaks of humility. What did we just talk about? The Black Swan model teaches us here humility and preparedness are how we ought to live as leaders. Prayer is the greatest demonstration of a life lived in humility. Why? Because it says, I'm not dependent on self, I'm dependent on God. Prayer realigns your dependency. We have to build prayer into our lives if we consider that these Black Swan events are the ones that can shape my life the biggest. Now, when you think about this, just again to show you the magnitude of these Black Swan events, when we often, not all and not in every scenario, when we often talk to somebody about, hey, talk to me about the events in your life that shaped you the most. It's never the average, it's hardly ever, I'm not going to say never, it's hardly ever the average, ordinary events that we planned for, we prepared for, that we expected. The things that when you think about your life and I think about my life, when I think about my experiences, it has been the events and the things in my life that I didn't see coming, that I didn't plan for, that have shaped me the most. These Black Swan events are so big in magnitude. They have seismic style impact in our lives. And this is why we must be prayerful, because prayer realigns our dependency. And why is that important? Because here's what I've learned. Pride comes before the fall. That's scripture. Pride comes before a fall. And prayer, which is a picture of humility and dependence on God, is the antithesis of pride. Pride comes before a fall. Humility keeps you coachable. Humility keeps your head in a swivel. And you need that for the punches that life throws at you. So here's some questions for you. What is your source? What is the source of your strength? What is the source of your confidence? What is the source of your foundation? Who and what do you look to when you consider the foundation and the life you want to live? What is the source of your strength? Where does your help come from? Where does your help come from? Are you looking within or are you looking up towards the hills where my help comes from? What you build your life on is what will sustain you through the unpredictability of life. I think of Matthew chapter 7, verse 25. That's the whole story about the foundation we built upon. The man who built his house in sand and the man who built his house on the rock. That when the storm came, the house that was built on the rock stood still. What are you building your life on? I pray that we're building our life on prayer, which is the rock that is Christ. Because what you build your life on is what will sustain you through the unpredictability of life. Number 4, the fourth thing that the Black Swan model teaches me. It teaches me to build rhythms, better rhythms in my life. I read this quote, fatigue will make cowards of us all. Fatigue will make cowards of us all. Fatigue will leave you more vulnerable than you've ever been. In fact, most of the people who I have seen or heard their thoughts after the fact, most of the people who've had moral failings, most of the people who have stumbled, given into temptation, fallen prey to the attacks of the enemy, it's because they were fatigued. They were caught at their most weakness, they were caught in their most vulnerability, they were caught when they were most fatigued. So my question to you is, what do your rhythms look like? What rhythms have you built into your life? Because if you don't build healthy rhythms in your life, you'll become susceptible to fatigue, which is a picture of running at red, which come back to the margin in our life. Do the rhythms you've built into your life allow time to process? Do they allow time for you to adapt? Do they allow time for you to pray? I get very nervous. People say, I'm too busy to pray. Oh my God. Do they allow you time to replenish? Do they allow time for you to rest? You know, I wrote that word rest down and immediately I thought of the Sabbath. Now, the origins, the premise of the Sabbath is not just about resting from your work. The premise of the Sabbath is to rest, to remind yourself that God is your source. And my fear with us, a lot of us today, is that many of us have not built the Sabbath into our lives, which hurts us in two ways. We've not built rest into our lives to recuperate, to process, to plan, to replenish, but we've also not given our time to lean into God and remind our souls, remind our minds, remind our entire being that I can rest from work and God will still meet my needs. My source is Him. We rob ourselves of those two things when we don't take the Sabbath. So build the Sabbath back into your life. The last thing that the Black Swan model teaches me to build is it teaches me to build faith into my life. I got to have faith. Faith doesn't prevent the blow. Jesus tells us that. In this life, you will have many trials. You'll have many troubles. But take heart, for I have overcome the world. That takes faith. Faith doesn't prevent the blow. It prevents the collapse. I need faith. I want to say that again. Faith does not prevent the blow. I need that to be known because, again, people have fallen over going, I had faith in God and the tragedy still happened. I had faith in God and I still had that tragic loss. I had faith in God and that plan still failed. I had faith in God in XYZ. Well, no one ever said that faith prevents the blow. But what faith does is it prevents the collapse. So yes, you had faith and the tragedy came, but guess what? You're still standing. And it's not because you're strong, humility. It's because He's strong. It's because He held you up. Faith prevents the collapse. I don't have faith in my plans. That's the biggest mistake we can often make, to put faith into our plans. I don't have faith in my plans. I have faith in what He said. Why is that crucial? Because plans often fail. Like Tyson said, everyone has a plan to get punched in the mouth. Well, life is unpredictable. And things happen that we didn't foresee. And oftentimes plans fail. So what if you put your faith in your plans, what do you do when those plans come crumbling down? Many people made great plans in 2020. Plans to start businesses, plans to start churches, plans to start families, plans to start new careers. They took major risks in 2019, early 2020, took out a leap of faith. But those who put their faith in their plans and the world shut down. 2020 was a Black Swan event and the world shut down. They weren't prepared for the Black Swan event because the faith that they had was in their plans. But those whose faith was not in their plans, and yet their faith was in what He said, they persevered, they endured, and they are still standing today. I don't have faith in what I planned, I have faith in what He said. I don't have faith in my strategy, I have faith in His faithfulness. That's what the Black Swan model teaches me to build margin, to build community, to build prayer, to build rhythms in my life, and to build a life on faith. The Black Swan model, expect the unexpected. The second thing that I want to discuss here, the second thought for us to consider is the blind side. We've discussed the Black Swan. If I want to be anti-fragile in my leadership and life, I've got to expect the unexpected to build the Black Swan model into my life. The second thing is this, that is the blind side. Protect what you can't see. Protect what you can't see. It teaches me to protect what I cannot see. I thought it was in football. What we'll find is that the left tackle. I thought about this. I was thinking through this thought, and it popped in my mind. Anyone's watched the movie The Blindside? In the movie The Blindside, there is this opening monologue in there, and there's this great monologue that talks about that 4 or 5 seconds at the scrimmage line, and then the play starts to happen. There's 4 or 5 seconds between action and sometimes calamity. And it goes into a story about that in football, oftentimes the highest paid player is the quarterback because they make the plays. They're the franchise guy. The entire offense, entire plan is built on the quarterback. But what's interesting is that oftentimes the second highest player on any football team is the left tackle. Many of us don't even know what the left tackle is, who he is. Many of us couldn't name the left tackle of our favorite team. But yet, the left tackle is oftentimes the second most highest paid player on any football team. Why? Because the left tackle's job is to protect the blind side of the quarterback. It is, why is that? Because quarterbacks, why is the left tackle? Because most quarterbacks are right-handed. When you're right-handed, you turn your back to everything from your left side. You can't see it. You're scanning the field, which is what a quarterback must do. They're reading the defense, seeing what's in front of them, looking at the options, looking to make a play. They have to be focused. A bad quarterback is a quarterback whose eyes are not on the field of play and are worried about all the things that come around them. And so most quarterbacks, good quarterbacks, are so focused on the field of play, but they are vulnerable to everything coming from their left side, which is why the left tackle is the most important. Why? Because on the other team, the pass rusher is often the defense's best defensive player. the fastest, the strongest, the most agile. And if that quarterback doesn't have somebody looking after their blind side, protecting their blind side, protecting what they can't see, what happens is that pass rusher comes and sacks the quarterback, but worst case scenario, which has happened before, they can cause a catastrophic injury to that quarterback. Because again, it's the blow that you can't see that often takes you out. And so what do teams do? And we can learn from this. Most NFL teams invest heavily in someone strong enough, quick enough, and disciplined enough to guard what the quarterback can't see. And so as I thought about that concept, I thought to myself, if I want to be an anti-fragile leader and to live an anti-fragile life, which means I can survive the unforeseen blows of life, I've got to think about the blind side. I've got to think about the black swan, and I've got to think about the blind side, protecting what I cannot see. Every leader has a blind side. Now, I want to say this. I'm not just talking about a blind spot. We all have blind spots, things in our lives that we cannot see. The blind side is something that you have the potential to see, but it detracts you from what you're actually called to do. A classic example, a quarterback won't last very long in any level of sport, any level of the NFL or even junior football if they're looking at the blind side, if they're looking on the left side, because they can't do what they are tasked on the team to do. So what I'm talking about is every leader has a blind side. What does that mean? We all have areas of vulnerability that we can't watch for because we must stay focused on the mission. So as leaders, we must stay focused on the vision. We must stay focused on longevity, sustainability, growth, strategy, developing people, balancing budgets, and so forth and so on. There are things that only leaders can think about. But that is not all there is to think about in the areas we lead. There are other areas. Let's talk about our church. There are board things to consider. There are financial things to consider. There's the vision and mission things to consider. There's the compliance things to consider. There's the legal aspects to consider. There's the platforms things to consider. The messages, hearing from God for our community. Those are things. But the reality is, there's still pastoral care that's to happen. There's still culture that needs to happen. There's still there are a number of things that need to still be considered for the health of a local church. And that can be true of business, that can be true of coaching, that can be true of family. And the temptation is to constantly be doing this, to be constantly checking on those things. The reality is this: anytime a leader's face is not faced forward towards what only they can do, and you start getting involved in things that other people can do for you, covering your own blind side, then the mission suffers. And mission failure is not acceptable. So we must learn as leaders. What does this mean for us? It means that we must do exactly what NFL teams do. We must invest heavily in getting ourselves left tackles in our lives. Who is the left tackle for your organization? Who is the left tackle for your leadership? Who is the left tackle for your church? Who is the left tackle for your team? Who is the person you have brought onto your trusted advisory team that you've invested heavily into, who can cover your blind side so you can focus on the mission at hand? You can focus on what only you can do. We need left tackles in our lives. And it's not just trusted people. Yes, we need trusted people. But building in a left tackle in our lives is not just building in people, but it's building in systems. What systems are we building into our lives that can cover our vulnerabilities? What systems are we building in our life that can take care of things that are that are important, but can't afford to take your mind off of the vision and mission at hand? It's mentors, it's disciplines that guard the angles you can't monitor yourself. No, and here's what this teaches me, that no matter how good you are, you cannot see every threat. No matter how good you are as a leader, you cannot see every threat. Why is that? Because you can't look forward and look left at the same time. I must choose one. I must choose to either look at my blind side and forsake the play in front of me, or I can choose to look at the play in front of me and forsake the blind side. We need community. We need people around us. Who am I getting and what am I building into my life that covers my blind side? In leadership, that blind side, here's some things what it might be. That blind side might be a strength you over-rely on. That blind side might be a weakness you refuse to acknowledge. That blind side might even be a person you assume will always be loyal. Here's what's tricky. And we have to build this into our lives as leaders. I'm often doing this. I do this. As great as the people we have in our lives are, I will never make the mistake of believing that people with me will be with me for life. And I have seen some of the best leaders be brought to their knees, some of the greatest organizations broken down to nothing because they assumed on people's longevity and loyalty for life. And we build things, we build people into places, people into systems, but what happens when you pull out that crucial piece? Because we don't own people. We don't own people. I want to say that again. As leaders, we don't own people. So we cannot assume the loyalty of people are forever. So what does that mean? It means I must build systems in place, build structures in place, that if we were to lose the most valuable people on our team, we can still function as a team. If we were to lose the most valuable confidants in our lives, we can still function. I don't want to be the leader who falls apart because we lost somebody. People come and go. It's life. Now, do I pray and believe that the people we have around us who are holding key positions in our leadership team are going to be with us for life? I have to believe that. I want to believe that. But I also must realize that if I want to survive the blows I cannot see, and oftentimes it's the blows of people who you thought would be with you for life, who end up leaving you at the most pivotal times. If I'm going to survive that, I must build into myself a blindside, a system, a protocol, a structure that means I don't fall apart because someone left my life. So here's some questions for us to consider. Who's your left tackle? What is your left tackle? And if you don't have one as a leader, you're susceptible to failure. Who tells you the truth that you don't want to hear? What system, what voice, what rhythm, what guardrails have you put into your life where are you overconfident in control and underdeveloped in resilience? Or this last line here, don't just strengthen your gifts, fortify your blind side. So if we want to be, again, anti-fragile leaders, living anti-fragile lives that can endure the unpredictability of life, we must consider the Black Swan model. We must consider our blind side, expect the unexpected, protect what you can't see. And number 3, which is the last point here, is that we must consider the 10th man. Challenge the consensus. Challenge the consensus. It's funny because as long as I could kind of see the Black Swan thing. I was kind of guessing about the blindside thing, but what I had no clue about was the 10th man. What's the 10th man? He's trying to think about sport analogies. Well, here's the 10th man. It was very spiritual when I discovered this. A few years ago, a lot of years ago now, because it's been a while since this movie came out. There's a movie called World War Z. I love movies. I love learning from everything. I learn actually the most, oftentimes from conversation, watching movies, reading books, and so forth. So don't knock movies. I'm a movie guy because I learn a lot from movies. So I was watching this movie called World War Z, and essentially the preface of this movie is that there is this virus outbreak that ends up turning people into zombies, essentially. I know it sounds lame now that I say it out loud. Still, it's a great movie. Brad Pitt's in it. Kristen's like, still a good movie. Brad Pitt was in it. And so this virus outbreak that then turns people into zombies. And world leaders across the world hear that there's this outbreak, this virus outbreak. But many and they hear that people are turning into zombies and don't believe it. And so in this movie, the virus breaks across the world, kind of like what 2020 happened, and literally countries are collapsing all around the world. But one country did not collapse. One country endured. Oh, Valerie, I know that movie. And I actually really like it. Me too, Miss Valerie. Thanks for having my back. People in this room out here are casting faces at me, laughing at me. It's a great movie. In fact, there's a lot to learn from there. But one country withstood. One country did not crumble. One country did not fall apart. One country did not get overtaken. And the country is Israel. So they task Brad Pitt, who's this, I don't know actually his title or whatever it is, to go find out, to help the vaccine team, because the team building the vaccine needs to first trace the origins in order to build the vaccine. So they task him to go find out. So they send him to Israel, go, hey, Israel has stood. Maybe they know something we didn't know. Go find out. So he goes to Israel, and he's meeting with this Israeli intelligence officer. And he says to the Israeli officer, how did you guys know? And this line, which has stuck with me clearly, because this movie it's not a new movie, it's an older movie. He said this, we didn't know. We have what we call the 10th man rule. And here's what it means, is that he explains, he goes, if 9 analysts agree that something is impossible, it is the responsibility of the 10th man to assume the opposite, to say that it can happen, and watch this, to prepare as if it will. That's the 10th man rule. And so, funny, as I was thinking about this, I put this in the thought for tonight. Then I thought, I'm going to research, is this real? And actually, this is actually not just a movie concept. It actually exists in Israel. And it traces back to 1973, when Israel, what was called the Yom Kippur War. So in 1973, on Yom Kippur, which is a sacred holiday in Jewish tradition in Israel, they were attacked by Egypt. And it was one of the worst attacks. There was up until, I think, October 6th, that was the most catastrophic loss of life in Israel after its inception as a nation. Why? It says this, that they experienced the greatest loss of life in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. Why? Because of intelligence failures. Why did the intelligence fail? Due to a lack of dissenting voices that led to the country being caught off guard by an attack from Egypt. So after the attack in 1973, they realized that we failed in our intelligence because we didn't have any voices at our leadership table, in our strategic table, who dissented, because everyone thought it will never happen to us. That would never happen. Remember what I said earlier? They believed that it was an impossibility. And they didn't have the 10th man to say that what you all think is impossible, it's my responsibility to say it is possible. And so after the 1973 war, Yom Kippur War, the Israeli intelligence instituted what is called the 10th man rule. And they do that still today. It is if 9 people say something is impossible, it is the responsibility of the 10th to say it is and to plan accordingly. Why is that? It is because it's a deliberate way to counter groupthink, what we sometimes call echo chambers. It is designed to counter groupthink and to prepare for the black swan. It is that 10th person's rule to assume that what we think is impossible, black swans don't exist, is actually possible, and to prepare as if it is. So here's the parallels for us in leadership. In your leadership circle, in your life, the 10th man is the person who has the courage to ask you these questions. What if you're wrong? Do you have people in your life? Do you have people in your organization? Do you have people on your team? Do you have somebody on your team who assumes the role of the 10th man, who always challenges assumptions we make? What if we're wrong? What if the thing we think can't happen does? What are we currently overconfident in? And as I thought about this thought, I stumbled upon this quote, this idea that says this, that healthy leaders don't silence dissent. They institutionalize it. They create space for perspective, for tension, and for inconvenient voices that might just save the mission. That's so crucial. And I wrote that down because here's what happens. We don't like the voice at a leadership table who says, what if we're wrong? What if the assumptions we're making are not wrong? What if the thing we say can never happen, can't happen, actually does? Why? Because we feel like it slows us down. We hate that voice. If we're honest, most of us leaders hate having someone at the table, and we often say that person's a cynic. We'll often remove that person from our life. We'll remove that person from a leadership table going, they're not bought into the vision. And we wonder why most organizations fail in the face of catastrophic black swan events. Because they didn't have enough voices of dissent at the table. They didn't counter groupthink. And again, insecure leaders love building a table of yes men. Building a table of people who just say yes to every idea, yes to everything. If you as a leader or you in life are surrounded by people who tell you that everything you think is right, that every idea you have is the greatest, that every plan you have is the perfect plan, then my friends, you are not prepared for the catastrophic seismic events that can upend your whole life and put you on the floor from life's unpredictability. And so I want us to embrace this idea that healthy leaders don't just silence dissent, they institutionalize it. We must learn how to create space for those voices in our lives and in our leadership tables, because they might just help us save the mission. Proverbs 11 puts it like this, that in the abundance of counselors, there is safety. In the abundance of counsel is there is safety. But as I thought about that, I thought, oh, there's a little caveat I want to put in there. It only works if not all the counselors think alike. In abundance of counselors, there is safety, but not if all the counselors think alike. It's dangerous to give into groupthink. So here's some questions I have for us. Who in your life plays the 10th man? Who is the 10th man for your organization? Who's the 10th man for the meetings you're in? Who is the 10th man for every scenario you face? When's the last time, another question for you, when's the last time someone challenged your assumption and you thanked them for it? That's a big piece. When was the last time you challenged your assumption and you thanked them for it? What systems invite pushback? What systems have you built in your life that invite pushback? Why is that important? Because if you don't invite pushback, reality will deliver it to you. And reality will often dish it out in a far more painful way than pushback ever could. Where are you assuming stability instead of building flexibility? It's challenging the assumptions we're making. Are you building for comfort or are you building for chaos? There's a last thought on that. Don't just gather people who agree. Gather people around you who see differently. Don't just gather people who agree. Gather people who see differently. If we are going to be anti-fragile leaders, living anti-fragile lives, we've got to institute these ideas. The black swan, expecting the unexpected. The blind side, protecting what you can't see. And the 10th man, challenging the consensus. Together, those three concepts form a mature, three-dimensional philosophy of leadership that is built on awareness and strength. Expect the unexpected, protect what you can't see, and challenge the consensus. And maybe, just maybe, you survive the blow that you don't see coming. That's how leaders stay standing when the punch they don't see coming lands. So here's my invitation to us. It's not to try and avoid punches. It's not trying to avoid the punch, because you can't. Wisdom will teach you that you can't avoid every single punch that life throws at you. So the invitation is not to try and avoid the punch, but to build systems, circles, and fortitude that can absorb and adapt to the punch. The kingdom isn't built by leaders who never fall. It's built by leaders who learn to get up faster and to get up stronger each time that they fall. And I wrote this down, even this one. The goal of maturity isn't omniscience. It isn't to know everything. It's endurance. And so here's the last line. In fact, I was toying up between this and what I have currently as a title. And this is the last thought is that all of this teaches me to realize that you don't have to see it coming to survive it. You don't have to see it coming to survive it. If you're an anti-fragile leader and living an anti-fragile life, who's learned to build these things in your life, expect the unexpected, protect what you can't see, and challenge the consensus, then my friends, you won't have to see it to survive it. You'll have the fortitude, you'll have the strength within, the resolve within to endure and to actually allow those life's unpredictabilities to make you stronger, to make you faster, to make you better. I hope that's helpful. The black swan, the blind side, and the 10th man. Amen? Amen. That's all I have for us today. I hope that's helpful. I hope that you can take some of those things and build some of those things into your life. And so before we finish, any thoughts, any questions in the chat, anything you want to add, anything that came to your mind as you were listening to that? I'll take a quick look here and see what's coming. But yeah, I hope that was a helpful thought. Let's see, I'm going to wait and see if anything pops up in the chat. You don't have to see it coming to see it. The black swan, the blind side, and the 10th man. Well, I don't have anything. I hope that was helpful. Nothing in the chat here, so it seems that it's stuck or it didn't stick. What? No. But I hope that does help you, because my heart's prayer is this, that we can endure life's unpredictability and be a kind of people who can see things through and build the kind of organizations, build the kind of teams, build the kind of lives that can endure all that life has to throw at us. Well, I love you, and we'll see you tomorrow night for Wednesdays in the Word for our normal church Bible study, or perhaps on Sunday for one of our leaders, for one of our builders gatherings. I love you a great deal. We'll see you soon.